Welcome into our NFL mock draft special. It is the Mike Tannenbaum edition. You haven't seen one like this before. It's a GM mock in which a GM, that being Mike Tannenbaum, plays the role of picking each player for each team just like he did back in the day. You take a look at the big board. You just saw that moments ago as we are just under 1 month away from the NFL draft, which of course is taking place in Green Bay this year. Mike Tannenbaum, the man who made the selections, is here to explain every single pick. Mel Kiper Jr., Matt Miller are two men who will be playing, let's call it jurors for the day, deciding just how well Mel is doing. Mike is doing, I should say. And you hear that chime, Mike. Titans are on the clock. Who are they taking?
Cam Ward, quarterback, University of Miami. No surprise here. He had an outstanding season. He's well built, touchdowns and no interceptions. And something else that really moved the needle for him, guys, was the feedback teams got from his teammates at the Combine and the reverence they had for him, his intangibles, and his leadership.
Well, Mel, it's gotten to the point now where it kind of feels like this is a fait accompli. It is going to be Cam Ward to the Titans. What do you make of this pick?
Well, a new general manager wants his own quarterback. A head coach who inherited Will Levis now can get his own quarterback. And that's what everybody wants. Head coach and GM quarterback all in sync, all together, and all moving forward. You're going to have some bumps in the road. You tolerate bumps in the road with your quarterback more than one you got from somebody else. So for them, keep swinging at quarterback. And Cam Ward is a gunslinger, and he can move around. He adapted well going from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami. The AFC's loaded with great quarterbacks. So for Tennessee, it's basically a reset. It's saying, okay, we are going to handpick the quarterback we feel can take us to the level we need to get to, which is the playoffs / Super Bowl. And if Cam Ward's that guy, build around him. They have an early second-round pick to get a pass rusher, and then they have no third-round pick. So that early second-round pick is going to be critical. But at that point, I think a good pass rusher may slip through the cracks, Matt.
Yeah, it really feels like this will be the pick. Now, whether it should be or not, we've got about a month to debate it. I personally think Abdul Carter is the best player in this draft. He is that position of need. Mel just mentioned they need a pass rusher. They traded Harold Landry Jr. He's now with the Patriots. But I look at this team. What else are they going to do? They sat out free agency when it came to the quarterback market. And a lot like when they took Will Levis, they've backed themselves into a corner here where there's not a guy on the roster where you feel like can compete for that starting job. We've seen 2 years of Will Levis. It's why they're picking number 1 overall. I like Cam Ward. He is my number 1 quarterback in this draft. He has the arm talent. He can adjust the arm angle with that shortstop motion. He's a playmaker in and out of the pocket. Sure, he's going to have to speed things up a little bit at the next level. We saw that from plenty of the quarterbacks who were drafted in the first round last year. But for Tennessee, this feels like a pick that they have to make. And I even get the sense, talking to people around the league, they're talking themselves into Cam Ward right now. They're looking for reasons to fall in love with him because they know they don't have any other options at the quarterback position. So whether they should or shouldn't take him first overall, and I would, again, lean to Abdul Carter, it feels like this is what the pick will be.
Matt, I see this a little bit different. I see this as an opportunity for the Titans. I had the privilege of working with Bill Callahan for a number of years when we were at the Jets together. He's obviously the offensive line coach and the father of head coach Brian Callahan. And one of the things that Coach Callahan always talked about was fundamentals and doing the small things the right way. And when you watch Cam Ward play, I think there's a certain sort of, like, he has the confidence, the fundamentals, there's poise to his game. And I think that portends well for a Callahan-coached offense. It's rule-based. They'll try to move him. He has good athleticism. He's a functional athlete. I don't think he's a high-end athlete. But coming off of what they had with Will Levis, I think this is a meaningful upgrade. Is it perfect? Maybe not. But I do think he's a great fit in this Callahan offense.
And my question for Matt would be, if it's not Cam Ward, and I agree with you, there are better players in this draft than Cam Ward on a ratings board, Matt. But if you're the Tennessee Titans, you got a new GM and Callahan wanting his own quarterback, what would you do at quarterback? You have, like I say, no third-round pick at that early 2. You know, you get Abdul Carter. Who, Matt Miller, is your quarterback then?
I just want to hear Mel say he whiffed hard on Will Levis.
Jackson Dart from Ole Miss is still on the board at 33. And that's, to my point, Mel, they have backed themselves into this corner where you can't sit and hope, because the same thing happened with Will Levis, who was the 33rd overall pick in the draft. So they've put themselves in a position where I do think they have to take Cam Ward here at number 1 overall.
Yeah, the only way I might rephrase it, Matt, is that I don't know if they backed themselves in the corner as opposed to they chose the path that's going to lead them to Cam Ward, as they largely sat out in free agency, as you alluded to, other than
so I guess that Allen, this is where the draft starts now with Cleveland at 2.
In Cincinnati.
Do we take Shedeur Sanders or do we take Abdul Carter?
Along with the great Vinny Testaverde, the chime has been hit. Mike, who's up next at number 2 for the Browns?
Travis Hunter, corner, University of Colorado. And Mel, you remember the 1984 NBA draft. You don't want to pass on Michael Jordan when you take Sam Bowie. And I think Travis Hunter has a chance to be a great player. And as Field, you and Mel have talked about on your podcast Mondays and Thursdays, that Travis Hunter has averaged almost 115 plays per game. I think he has a chance to be someone like Michael Jordan-esque when we talk about his intelligence, his competitiveness, his durability. I don't think you pass on somebody that has that sort of ceiling. Hey, we'll see what happens. Does Kirk Cousins become a Cleveland Brown after the draft? We'll see. But I think the ceiling's too high and too compelling. I put Travis Corner at corner. I give him 15, 20 plays a game at receiver, third down red zone, and I am ecstatic if I'm the Cleveland Browns.
I just got to be honest with you guys for the rest of the show. I'm glad to know that we have at least one loyal listener of First Draft. This is a fantastic mock draft by Mike Tannenbaum. Let's go to you, though, Matt. This is Travis Hunter, the age-old debate. Is playmaker the way to go, though, for the Cleveland Browns, whether he's a corner or a wide receiver with the Browns?
I think when you're a bad team, you draft good football players, and he's a dang good football player. And there's going to be that debate. Is he a receiver? Is he a corner? I think on a bad football team, why his career that have kept him off the field. I think for the Browns, you need a spark. That fan base, that franchise is in the ditch right now because of the Deshaun Watson contract, because of how poorly Deshaun has played. They do need a spark. Travis Hunter.
Again, if I was a team, I'd be trying to get him to play receiver.
4.0 student. All he likes to do is fish and play football. I think there is a pathway to him seeing snaps on both sides like Mike was talking about, where you can get that spark offensively. You can get that spark on defense. Now, like Tennessee, who's the quarterback? I do think you have to have a plan here to get someone like a Russell Wilson or get a Kirk Cousins from the Falcons if they'd be willing to trade him for picks and cash. But they have to have a pathway at quarterback as well. But I think, again, when you're a bad team and perennially a bad team, just go get a good football player who you know is going to contribute right away.
That's pretty much the strategy for anybody in the top 10.
You are very passionate about your stance that Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft, a stance I share, by the way. But your number one quarterback in the draft is still on the board here, that being his teammate at Colorado, Shedeur Sanders. Because of the Browns' quarterback need, would you consider Shedeur at number 2 overall?
I would, but I don't think they will. I think when you look at picking second and being able to get the best player on your board field, and that's what they're going to get. This quarterback was forced up there at number 1 to Tennessee and Cam Ward. Then you're picking 2. You're getting Abdul Carter, that wide 9, opposite Myles Garrett. They have never had that. Now you get Myles double team. Now you get Carter off the edge. Great quarterbacks in the AFC, and you are going to put a lot of pressure on those signal callers with an Abdul Carter. Or do you go the generational guy in Travis Hunter? Both sides of the ball, as Mike talked about. It's a nice decision to have to make when you get the best player and you got 2 kids to debate in Hunter or Carter. So it's going to be really fun to see what direction they go away from quarterback to the best player on their board. And is the best player on their board Carter or Hunter?
Yeah, Mel, look, if I'm Judge Schwartz, the defensive coordinator of the Browns, I love the idea of Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter. Without question, you could control the game that way. But for me, if you could get arguably what should be the best corner in the NFL with rare ball skills who could be a point scorer, I just think, again, is he Michael Jordan? Obviously, that's a very lofty goal long term, but he certainly could be a transformational player. You talk about football character, competitiveness, and intelligence. I think it's just a rare opportunity. If I'm the Browns, again, I'm hoping on Kirk Cousins, as Matt alluded to after the draft, but I just can't let Travis Hunter pass us by.
All right, so Matt, we were close enough.
You guys think Travis Hunter would be a top 10 corner as a rookie or as a second-year player?
How he might fit at either position for those few teams. You talked about this a little bit earlier, but just vet this out a little bit further. If you're the Browns and you're taking Travis Hunter, number 2 overall, what does the initial plan for him look like? Is he playing wide receiver? Is he playing corner? Or is he playing both?
Field, you and I aren't the biggest guys, right? We've stood next to each other. Travis Hunter, also not the biggest guy. Yeah. Would you like to tackle Derrick Henry and DK Metcalf, who were in that division
I would not. No.
Absolutely not. He's 6 foot, 188 pounds. I'm playing him at wide receiver. If he wants to take a couple snaps at corner, maybe you say, hey, let's just go lock up George Pickens in red zone areas, or let's just go lock up, Jamar Chase. Like, let's play some asking him to throw those shoulders around and tackle the big boys in the AFC North. If this was a different division, it might be a different conversation, but I would put him at wide receiver. Also, Travis Travis. Check out how much wide receivers make versus corners. I know the corner money is on the come up right now, but wide receivers are making bank, and you're not getting as much wear and tear on your upper body on that side.
I agree. I think you can get more out of them there at receiver.
Coordination, best ball skills anybody I've ever looked at in 47 years is Travis Hunter. I agree. Play him on offense, sprinkle him in on defense. When your team gets to that playoff level, whenever it happens and those big games matter the most, then you can sprinkle him in on the defensive side of the ball as well. And I think he'll do that early on while he's a young kid in the NFL. He is a generational talent. He certainly would make sense at this point in the draft.
Your eyes will tell you how great Travis Hunter is, but just a couple of numbers to back it up. No player played more snaps than Hunter in the FBS last year at nearly 1,500. He ranked in the top 5 in both receiving yards and touchdown catches. Oh, he had 4 interceptions just for good measure.
All right, Giants. They signed Jameis, but
Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, University of Colorado, Travis Hunter's teammate, Deion Sanders' son. A lot of games with Shedeur Sanders. For me, the comp is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has had a really good NFL career, and I think the aspect of his game that's most impressive, his toughness. He's been sacked 94 times in 2 seasons, and when you look at the last 2 years in the NFL, guys, 2 years ago, 66 quarterbacks started a game. Last year, 59 quarterbacks started a game. He missed 1 game in his career due to injury. His durability is unbelievable.
All right, Mel, this is your guy right here. What do you make of the fit for your number 1 quarterback in the entire draft, Shedeur Sanders, to the New York Giants?
I will also say in my 47 years, maybe the most underappreciated superstar I've seen come out of the collegiate ranks for all the criticism he receives. The Shedeur Sanders, if he was that, he'd be a 3rd-round pick. Guess what? Shedeur Sanders helped, again, outstanding. A few more interceptions, but this kid made the big throws when he had to. Underrated arm, underrated mobility in the pocket, underrated overall is Shedeur Sanders.
I don't know that I'm ready to call him underrated because we've been talking about it for 2 years, but he is being pushed down boards. I'm with you on that one, Mel, because I don't have him ranked number 3 overall. He's my number 2 quarterback, but I will say the New York Giants, like the other 2 teams we've talked about, need a quarterback. They have put themselves in this position. Shedeur is going to get discussed at length. He's not the biggest. He's not the strongest. He's not the fastest, but he is the most accurate. And I think that's something that the New York Giants need. They have weapons. You have Malik Neighbors. You have a pretty good offensive line. Andrew Thomas, when healthy, is a premier left tackle. We saw in last year's draft. Tyrone Tracy's a good running back. They have Theo Johnson at tight end who could become a pretty good playmaker. So I think for New York, the table is set pretty well. Now, it would be a debate for me in this draft room if I'm Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll about Abdul Carter, playing him opposite Kayvon Thibodeau. Do you want to build a strength? Take something that's good and turn it into a strength. But they're going to get fired if they don't find a quarterback of the future because they rolled the dice on Daniel Jones. He didn't get it done. They let Saquon walk. He just won a Super Bowl with the division rivals and was arguably one of the best players in the NFL last year. So I think for Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, this is a pick they have to make. They have to get a rookie quarterback who can win them games. I think Shedeur has the highest floor of any quarterback in this draft. He is going to be ready to come in and play right away. And as Mel said, he has elevated these programs from Jackson State to Colorado. He's handled the bright lights being Deion's son. He can handle the New York media. So as much as I feel like this is a reach, I think this is a pick.
Imagine the Giants have Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, and Dexter Lawrence.
He's going to come in and stabilize the franchise and, more importantly, stabilize the quarterback position. You know what's interesting to me, guys, is what happens if they go on a 3-game losing streak early on? And we talked about how hot of a seat Brian Daboll has. Deion Sanders to the New York Giants, you don't think all fall long we're going to see those rumors over and over again? If Shedeur Sanders is a Giant and they're struggling, when you're in the dot-connecting world that we're in, we know that's a story that, to me, it's already been written if they have any sort of, bumps in the road early
John
on.
Mara going to hire Deion Sanders?
That this represents,
I don't know, man.
Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are top 5 picks. It'll be the 3rd straight year that multiple quarterbacks have been taken in the top 5. That has never happened in 3 consecutive drafts in the common draft era. This would be the first. To the Mike Team Mock Specials.
All right. Looks like the Patriots are going to steal Abdul Carter. So our last 3 first-round picks would be Drake May, Christian Gonzalez, and
Membo, offensive tackle, Missouri. He's had an outstanding offseason. Played in 36 games, started 30 at Missouri.
Well, this mock is
Can
invalid.
he shift from the right side, as we're seeing here, to the left? I believe he can. The Patriots were 31st in pass block win rate. They need a left tackle. They're not going to the season with Vidarian Lowe at left tackle. This is a pick they absolutely have to make. Okay, moving on to Jacksonville. Abdul Carter, Penn State, defensive end. This is a no-brainer. The fact that he's there at 5 is remarkable. This is good fortune for Jacksonville. I'm assuming they're going to exercise Trayvon Walker's fifth-year option. Even with him and Josh Hines-Allen, they struggle rushing the passer. You just take the best player when he falls in your lap. He's a more explosive Micah Parsons, in my opinion, and you get all three pass rushers on the field together.
Well, so, Mel, you hear that. A more explosive Micah Parsons, and the Patriots pass on him at number 4 for Armand Membu. What do you make of that decision?
Yeah, Mike said it's remarkable that Carter were there. It's because Membu went 4th. And I think if you're the Patriots and you need that edge rusher and you're getting the best or second best player on your board, probably the best because the 2 quarterbacks go and Travis Hunter goes, you can make an argument Abdul Carter, best player on the board, we're getting at 4 as an edge rusher in a need area. I mean, you're celebrating. The fireworks are going off in New England, but we're passing on him for Membu. Now Jacksonville is celebrating because they get a guy who played off ball for 2 years. People forget that. Before he moved outside and was unleashed, he was off ball making a ton of plays for the Nittany Lions. So great for Jacksonville, but for New England to pass the board, correct?
He's certainly up there. He's not top 3, but Mel, if we were running the New England Patriots and Drake May was everything in our franchise, who is protecting him? I don't care if Abdul Carter is 1, 2, or 3 on your board. Who is protecting Drake May?
Right, but here I'm getting the 11th player in Membu on my board as opposed to the second player, Carter, and you're picking 4th. And you're really rejoicing because 2 quarterbacks went. And you're looking at your board saying, okay, I'm at 4. I'm getting number 1 on my board at 4. That's amazing, Mike. And it's an edge rusher who competes hard every play, seals the edge, plays the run, does everything, has that versatility. And he's a great football player. He's special. There's 2 special players in this draft, Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. And you're getting one of those guys at 4, Mike. But Mike Tannenbaum's sitting there saying, we got to get Drake May protection. We're going to force it. We're going to force a need and pass on one of the best players, if not the best player in this draft.
I understand that, Mel,
I don't know
but
that
when
I can
we're
add
peeling
anything
Drake
onto
May
that.
off the turf, we could say, hey, look, there was a higher rated player in Abdul Carter, and I totally get it, how great Abdul Carter can be.
There's more than one round in the draft, Mike T. We can get a tackle later.
I'm just saying that when your need is so pronounced, and we're talking about protecting your franchise quarterback, I don't think you have a choice.
All right, so, Matt, I'm going to let you break the tie here. Armand Membu over Abdul Carter, or Patriots, who, by the way, had the fewest sacks in the NFL last year, taking Abdul Carter instead.
I think we've forgotten who the Patriots head coach is in Mike Vrabel. He's going to want to go get the quarterback, guys. He brings in Harold Landry. What do they never have in Tennessee? Someone opposite Harold Landry who could go get the quarterback. If you're the Patriots, this is the fastest pick in the history of the NFL draft. It's Abdul Carter. And I like Armand Membu. I really do. But we're talking about a guy that NFL teams think might be a guard. And we're talking about moving him from right tackle to left tackle. That is a big transition, in my opinion. Something he's not done is played on the left side. I will throw this note out there, represented there by some upper-level folks in their scouting department, and they weren't watching wide receiver Luther Burden. So the Patriots' connection to Membu is legit, but I think that's more so in the case that Abdul Carter would already be off the board.
Let me tell you guys a story. My first year as a general manager, we took the Brickashaw Ferguson at 4, Nick Mangold at 29. We had lost 2 quarterbacks in 7 snaps the year before, and those 2 players were foundational players for a long, long time. I love Abdul Carter. I totally get it, guys.
We're not getting to Brickashaw Ferguson in this draft, so.
You know who else loves Abdul Carter? Abdul Carter himself, and he has a good reason to. As he took to Twitter yesterday and tweeted the following: "Number 1 overall pick, 30 days away." All right, the pick is in. The Raiders are on the clock. The Raiders are on the clock. Mike T., who are they taking?
Ashton Genty, running back from Boise State. And what's really remarkable about him,
to have liked this pick, other fans of other teams seem to not so much.
You think about stabilizing a franchise. Geno Smith, stabilizing a franchise. Have a dominant running game. I'm not saying he's Marshawn Lynch. I don't think he's as big, but his play style is similar. This is a Pete Carroll pick through and through. I think this is an easy decision for the Raiders.
Yeah, just by the way, that's 1,793 rushing yards after first contact, Mel. That's more rushing yards than any other player had last season. That was only after contact for our guy Ashton Genty.
I'll say if you're taking Ashton Genty at 6, he needs to be a top 5 running back.
For Las Vegas.
He's rated very high, and as Bijan Robinson and Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey and Zeke Elliott and Saquon Barkley all had high grades, and they were deserving based on grade to go that high. It's the same thing with Ashton Genty from Boise State, a complete back. He'll be contact balance, catches the football, blocks that last line of defense. He will protect Geno Smith, and this will be an immediate major addition to a team that frankly could not run the football last year, and he will help out Geno Smith immensely.
Yeah, I love the pick, but Mel, you're the guy, there's clips of you. You have this rule, no running backs in the first round. This is the rule you made up. So you can teach old dogs new tricks, guys, because Mel's coming around with the rest of us on running backs in the first round. This is the right pick for the Raiders. And it's not just Pete Carroll. I'm waiting for Kiper to jump in and tell me I'm wrong.
As my good friend Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend. Let's not jump to conclusions on my philosophy. My philosophy hasn't changed. My philosophy is still do not draft. But this is Mike Tannenbaum's mock drafts when we're trying to project what will happen. I'm not going to criticize Mike for doing what NFL teams mostly are going to do. Now, a lot of NFL teams are coming around and they're jumping on that bandwagon. And I don't see anybody being critical of my philosophy anymore. But on grade, Genty belongs there, and Pete Carroll is running back oriented. So for Mike to say, hey, I'm taking him, I can't sit here and scream and yell, because on grade, if he was the 12th, 15th best player in this draft, I would be yelling and screaming. But he's fourth on my board, so it would be a major contradiction if I criticize this pick based on philosophy, because everybody doesn't agree with my philosophy. I would say maybe, what did you guys say, 50% of the teams believe in my philosophy now? It was maybe 5% back when I started 25 years ago, that philosophy. So, hey, maybe by another 5 years, it'll be 100%. But right now, I'll go with Mike T on this one.
Kiper, I love you. I'm going with Mike T as well. I think this is the right pick. This is a Chip Kelly pick as much as it is a Pete Carroll pick. You trade for Geno Smith. You have Brock Bowers in the passing game. I would not reach for a wide receiver here. I don't think there's a receiver in this class that's worthy of the 6th overall pick. Ashton Genty would be the best player on my board, and he can make that difference in this offense like we saw Brock Bowers do from the tight end position last year. So whether this was what Mike T thinks will happen or what Mike T would do as the general manager, this is the right pick.
Yeah, one of my favorite reminders on Ashton Genty. He was terrific running the football last year, but 2 seasons ago in 2023, he led all FBS running backs in receiving yards. This guy is a 3-down player. All right, Mike, you've got some more picks here in the top 10. Let's rip through them, starting with one of your former teams, the New York Jets, at number 7.
Yes, Will Campbell, offensive tackle, LSU. We're going to make him a bookend right tackle with last year's first-round pick, Olu Fashanu. Lots been made about his arm length, sub 33 inches, but I go by the effectiveness of the player. He only allowed 2 sacks over his last 25 games in the SEC. That's plenty good enough for me, guys. I think they're ecstatic that he's there at number 10.
All right, so Mel, Mason Graham, 3rd overall player on your big board. How big of a steal is this? I mean, is this a Windy City heist by the Chicago Bears?
This is unbelievable is what it is. Not remarkable. It's unbelievable if Mason Graham were there at 10 in Chicago. Talk about rejoicing they would be. This would be an unbelievable, incredible pick. A grand larceny type of pick is what it would be, not a steal. And for Mason Graham, don't overthink it. I talk about LT Pierce. Looks the part, right? You know what he is? He is a PTBer. He plays the best. So don't overthink it. Mason Graham, plug and play, great player. I don't think there's any way he's there at 10. But if he is, Mike Tannenbaum, this will be, like I say, an incredible pick, probably one of the best picks in this draft.
Yeah, and I think that we talk about the pass rush ability of Mason Graham because it might be the trait that eventually gets him paid $25 or $30 million a year in the NFL. He's a darned good run stuffer, too. Opponents averaged just 2.6 yards per rush last season against Michigan when Mason Graham was on the field. The Bears are smiling. The 11th pick, Mike T. Who are they taking?
Be able to take a Will Johnson corner, University of Michigan. This player has all the tools in the world to be a frontline corner. The big question is going to be his durability. He only actually played 173 snaps this year, encouraged, but he has 9 career interceptions. And when you look at the 49ers, they lost Travarius Ward. I think he comes in from day one and has all the ability to be a frontline player. Again, if he could stay healthy, that is the big key for Will Johnson. Next up is going to be the Dallas Cowboys. Terodoro McMillan, wide receiver, University of Arizona. I think this guy is Keyshawn Johnson 2.0. He is big, he is tall, he is rangy. How about this field? And when you think about Dak Prescott being successful, his best years was when it was a young CeeDee Lamb and in his prime, Amari Cooper. If I'm Jerry Jones, I'm looking at this graphic and saying, I need another frontline receiver for this offense to go.
Yeah, Mel, certainly a position of need for the Cowboys.
Cowboys might need a new owner and a new quarterback.
Yeah, be good for Dak Prescott, no doubt about it. A couple offensive players will be probably staring him in the face at this point. T-Mac, Terodoro McMillan, no question about it. The contested catches go his way. He's going to have to continue to be that way in the National Football League. I think you look at Omarion Hampton, running back North Carolina, would also make sense there with the Cowboys. They went Emmitt Smith. They went certainly with Zeke Elliott. But Terodoro McMillan had big body.
Houston, I think he has great hands. I think he'll be a better pro than he was in college. And at key moments, this is the guy that they went to at Texas this past year. And then after that, we have Omarion Hampton going to Denver. University of North Carolina running back. I love this guy. He's big, he's physical. And when we think about what Sean Payton is building, this is Alvin Kamara. I think he's a perfect match. They signed Evan Ingram at tight end with Bo Nix. I think Hampton will be even better as a pro because of his ability to hit the home run that we're looking at here.
Yeah, back-to-back 1,500-plus.
Where's Jackson Dart at? I was told he's a top 10
but
pick
here's
now.
The time, which means the Steelers have made their pick at 21, Mike. Who are they taking?
I'm going to go with Shamir Stewart, defensive end, Texas A&M. This is a guy that has all the measurables.
Mike T has no idea who this is.
1.5 sacks this year. And look, this is a traits over production pick. There's a concern, why didn't he have more? He had a combine workout that was almost akin to literally what Myles Garrett did at Indy going back 6 years ago. So to me, you can't pass him up, and I would love to pair his ability and get his production with someone like Mike Tomlin.
All right, there are so many ways to go with this pick here, Matt, but let's address it from a positional standpoint. What do you make of the Steelers not taking a quarterback at 21 overall?
I was going to say, I know Shamar Stewart has a lot of traits, but I've never seen him throw the ball, and that's what Pittsburgh needs, someone who can get the ball out. You trade for DK Metcalf. You have George Pickens, who was unhappy last year with the quarterback play. So what is your plan? Is it 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers? And
I sure hope not.
They don't have a pick in round 2 where we could say, oh, maybe they'll wait for a guy. Maybe they'll select Quinn Ewers or Jalen Milroe in round 2. They don't have a second-round pick, so they don't have that long-term plan at quarterback. I don't know that you can bypass a Jackson Dart here if he's the best one left on the board. And sure, maybe Aaron Rodgers is coming in to be that guy, but Shamar Stewart, good player, 1.5 sacks in each of the last 3 years. And his run defense, also not that great. His run block win rate, not that great as well. So more of a project for me. Now, having him opposite TJ Watt, that's exciting. Yes, we love the explosiveness and the length. But I think Pittsburgh's got to figure it out at quarterback before we can think about any other position when you have T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith.
Yeah, look, I totally understand that. But if you get Aaron Rodgers at some point or even re-sign Russell Wilson as a bridge quarterback, that buys you some time. I'm a fan of Jackson Dart, don't get me wrong. I just think at this point, Shamir Stewart, again, working with Mike Tomlin, I think the upside is just too compelling if I'm the Steelers, especially looking at that front seven, some of their players like Craig Hayward getting a lot closer to the end of their careers, and I just don't think you could pass on this sort of ability.
This is the ultimate test case, Mike, is Shamar Stewart, because it is a guy, last 7 games, the last 3 years, no sacks. And you're taking a kid here in the first round of the Pittsburgh Steelers with production being minimal at the collegiate level against AOGs, another occupation guy. So he is an LT player. He's a looks the part guy. He's a guy certainly is boom or bust, all the old cliches. Mike, you know them all. That's him. Make your draft, break your heart, right? Could get you fired. But what they say, potential gets coaches fired. But this is the pass rush specialist guy. If you got a pass rush specialist that says, I can take this guy and make him a double-digit sack guy, you trust in that particular coach with Shamar Stewart, because guess what? If you can't get it done in college,
I mean, the Steelers have a fine pass rush with the 2 guys they named before. I don't think we need to take a project in the first round when the Steelers need so many other things.
Where you slide back a couple spots, but at some point, if you have to turn in the card and you're at this point in the draft, I'm taking the best player with the most upside. Ironically, this is where Kenny Pickett went, guys, and we know how that worked out. He's on his third team already in 3 years.
Wow, Kenny Pickett, yeah, seems like
he
is
just
straight.
shoot down his own pick.
Open up my phone. Shamar Stewart would be the first A&M defensive player to be taken in the first round since Myles Garrett, who of course went number 1 overall back in 2017. Mike Tannenbaum's mock rolls along, and Mike T, feed us on picks 22 through 26.
Yeah, 22, Michigan reunion. Colston Loveland, tight end Michigan, being reunited with Jim Harbaugh. He's 6'5". I think he's a plug-and-play first-day starter. He'll be paired with Tyler Conklin and Will Disley. Mel, did you know this will be the first Michigan tight end since 1973?
I like Jahdae Barron a lot. To the
Next
Vikings would be nice.
Tyrone Ravel, East Carolina corner, going to the Green Bay Packers. He didn't play a lot last year. He reminds me of Antonio Cromartie. A lot's been made about Jaire Alexander not being there. That, to me, is a really good value pick at that part of the first round. Next up for Minnesota, corner from the University of Texas, Jahdae Barron. I love his versatility. I love his aggressiveness. Pair him with Byron Murphy and Brian Flores' defense. I think he has a chance to thrive in that system. Great value for Minnesota at that point. And then Houston taking offensive tackle Kelvin Banks from the University of Texas.
Kelvin Banks was in that top 10 earlier.
Inconsistent year this year. They just signed Cam Robinson to replace Laramie Tunsil, who I don't understand why they would let him go, but I think Banks beats out Robinson, and Houston gets a starter for C.J. Stroud, who was sacked 52 times last season. Led the nation in yards per pass attempt, can get the ball down the field, and if I'm the Rams, I got to think that Matt Stafford is year to year, 1 year at a time. Tremendous value getting Jackson Dart at this point in the draft.
All right, Mel, so Mike T has the Rams throwing a dart on Jackson. Are they hitting the bullseye here at the quarterback spot?
Yeah, for Mike T, I was 12 years old back in 1973. Mike's no big board then, pal. But in terms of Jackson Dart, I do a big board for Jackson Dart. He's at 18 and at 26. You really think he'll be there for the Rams? If he is, it kind of resembles Bo Nix last year in his situation. Going from borderline first, early second, teams may trade back into being red hot. And that connection you think about with Drew Brees, to Sean Payton, so a little Drew Brees and Bo Nix. Bo Nix went SEC to the West Coast, right? It's out west to Oregon. Jackson Dart went west to SEC at Ole Miss, had a heck of a year, heck of a career, improved in all areas. Completion percentage, touchdown passes. This kid gets it in his legs. His athletic ability, his running skills are very underrated. I don't think he'll be there at 26 to the Rams. If he is, mark it down. I think he could be that.
For all the people who don't think Jackson Dart is good, they're going to point at they're going to say, just go watch the Florida game and how is he going this high, blah, blah, blah.
Hey, we have Alex Smith in Kansas City.
He needs to go to the right place, like all these guys do.
This is much more of like Stafford is year to year. The value in Jackson Dart to me is just too compelling to pass up.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. And I think for Jackson Dart, he is someone that's coming out of that Lane Kiffin offense, which is predicated on RPOs. It's predicated on one read and then go. He needs a little bit of time to sit. He's going to get that behind Matthew Stafford, who will be a great mentor for him. And I do think this Sean McVay offense is what's best for his skill set, because he does feather the ball down the field really well. He'll drop it in a bucket for his deep targets, but he throws the intermediate routes with a lot of velocity, a lot of timing. He can move a little bit in and out of the pocket to extend and make things happen for you. This is a fantastic fit. And I think for the Los Angeles Rams, they've gone to this approach of let's just draft productive football players from big-time programs in the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, and we get them in. They play early. They produce. Dart checks all those boxes. He's going to sit and wait. But like you said, Stafford, very much year to year at this point. So I do love this pick. I'm skeptical he'll actually be there at 26 when we get to Green Bay. But if he is, this is great for the Rams.
Yeah, Sean McVay's the key, just like Sean Payton was the key. And you go to Jayden Daniels with Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator. You think about where we are right now in the NFC. We're all talking about those great AFC quarterbacks, right? The NFC's catching up. Quietly catching up because of Jaden's greatness as a rookie. Caleb was going to be great, we all think. Jordan Love emerged. You think about all the quarterbacks now coming in to this conference. Sean McVay knows, hey, Jackson Dart could be a really good starting quarterback. And like Matt alluded to, you have time. You don't have to force feed him. You have to put all that pressure on a kid coming out of that RPO offense. I think it would be a great spot if he's there, which I would doubt.
Yeah. The other thing I like about him, guys, is his competitiveness. I thought he was the best thrower of the football at the Combine. He competed in Mobile. Like, to me, let's give him some credit. Like, he's answered the bell every single time, and I have no reason to think that, again, as you allude to, Mel, being coached every day by Sean McVay, I think the ceiling.
Are we serious when he says
I loved it when I
He
got all
threw
that
the ball
flack
the
for
best
having
at the
Jackson
combine.
Dart,
Like,
my
dude.
first-round mock a while ago. Everybody said, you're nuts. And now Mel is saying, I'm not even sure he'll be there at pick number 26. You hear the chime one last time. Let's rip through the final handful of picks in round one. Mike T, what do we got?
All right, Phil, we got number 27, Mike Green, defensive end, Marshall, going to the Ravens. Even though the Ravens were second in sacks, Fields at 54, way too much value and production to bypass Mike Green. 17 sacks a year ago. Next up, Detroit. I am taking Malachi Starks. I think this is a classic Detroit Lion pick. This guy is smart. He's versatile, played all over the place for the University of Georgia defense. Next up is Washington. Maxwell Hairston, corner from Kentucky. This is a team that traded for Marshawn Lattimore. They missed on Emmanuel Forbes with the last administration. He ran 4.28. I don't know if he always plays to that speed, but I think he's somebody that could come in and contribute right away. Then Emeka Egbuka, Buffalo, Ohio State wide receiver. I think he has a chance to start opposite Keon Coleman. 31, Kansas City. Nick Imawari, safety, South Carolina, who had a workout for the ages. And last but not least, Gray Zabel, who could come in and compete to start at right guard for the Eagles on day one. I think he's a tackle in college, but he slides inside from North Dakota State.
Mike, this is a great mock draft in my opinion, but we got to do it to you one time. Let's take a flashback to your time as a general manager with the New York Jets, and this is your attempt at fielding a punt. How did it go? The answer is not well.
Yeah, that's an undrafted free agent right there.
Well, you know what, though? It leads us into this opportunity to perfectly review your mock draft and spots where you may have dropped the ball in this mock. So, Matt, get us started. Where did my team miss?
Oh, my goodness. That punt is amazing. I'm going to go James Pierce. He had him 17 overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. Guys, my conversation with scouts around the league, in the top 20 would be a surprise for James Pierce, who had up and down production during his time at Tennessee. He's a very linear, lean pass rusher. Cincinnati does need help up front. I like the positional need there. I think Mike Green would be a better fit coming out of Marshall, who Mike had going a little bit later in the first round, guys.
Matt, you just dropped the ball for not critiquing Michael, not having Luther Burden III, your guy in the first round here. So I'm going to go for Mike, Savone Revel Jr. Got a lot of Revel can be back and ready to go for training camp. If that's the case, Mike, I like the pick, but we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, look, when we're at the bottom of the draft, to me, you're either filling needs or getting the most upside. And I think if we go back to Emeka Egbuka for a second, when you look at the Buffalo Bills, they're in a win-now mode. And I think Josh Palmer was a good acquisition. But I think, look at Abuka's production opposite Jeremiah Smith last year, to me, is too good to pass up, and I think he has a chance to start.
All right, so I didn't get to make my opportunity to say in which spot Mike T dropped the ball, but my guy Gray Zabel is not dropping all the way down to number 32. Write that one down in Sharpie right now, Mike Tannenbaum. More seriously, a wonderful mock draft. You can find it all on ESPN.com right now. For the man himself, Mike T, plus Mel and Matt, I am Field. Talk to you guys again sometime soon.